Well friends, this here is my Fixie. Now if you don't know what a Fixie is, that is a bicycle that has fixed gear. And what that means is there's never any coasting. Anytime the wheel is turning, the crank is turning. Now this one is quite unique in the fact that it is a 3-speed fixed gear. Sturmy Archer made these hubs, and it's a constant mesh transmission. So even though it has 3 gears, there is still never any coasting. Anytime the wheel turns, the crank turns. Now I've received hundreds and hundreds of compliments on this bike because it is admittedly a very beautiful bike. It's also a really reliable bike because I use Kevlar tires with thorn-proof tubes. So you have to run up against a very serious obstacle to get a flat. Now if you're familiar with the bottom of a wooden chair, a lot of times there will be a plastic bumper under there with a long nail on it, and that holds it in place in the chair leg. And the other day, riding down the Jedediah Smith Memorial Bike Trail, that's exactly what I encountered. I'm riding along out of nowhere and suddenly thump, 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 because I had picked up one of those chair leg bumpers. Because the bike is so reliable, I never carry tools. So I went to the nearest bike shop. Now I don't normally let anybody work on my bike because quite frankly I don't trust bike mechanics. Most of them are nowhere near as skilled as me. But I figured, hey, it's just a flat repair. How bad could they screw that up? Well, you're about to find out. Now looking here, you see how tall my rims are? This size rim requires a tube with a 60mm valve stem on it, which is what I have here. Now what they installed here was a 45mm valve stem, and that is so short, my tire pump will not clamp onto that. So I'm going to have to change out this brand new tube because they put the wrong size valve stem in. And in the grand scheme of things, I guess that's not so bad. 20 bucks just to get me home, and then I have to do the repair myself all over again. But this bike has a lot of unusual features going on. One of which is this gremlin bell. Keep the gremlins away while I'm riding. Now I didn't see this happen because the work area is not visible from the waiting area. But while the bike was back in the work area, I heard this bell violently shake, as though maybe they dropped the bike. When I went in there, it was in second. When they wheeled it back out, it was in second. But something was odd. The wheel was turning, the crank was not. I put it in first gear. I've got nothing. I put it in second gear. Nothing. Third gear, it latches. I suspect that what happened is when they dropped it, the crank hit something solid with enough force to shear off the selector key assembly. And that is this part right here. And what it does is move 2 sets of planetary gears into place so they can mesh with the main driver dog, which is the connection between the drive sprocket and the hub. The reason it works in third gear is because third gear bypasses both of those sets of planetary gears. So the gear ratio on this thing, when it's in third gear, that is direct drive. When it's in second gear, that's 25% reduction. And then when it's in first gear, that's 37% reduction. Anyway, let's open this thing up and see the damage. While I'm at it, I want to thank the people over at Sturmy Archer Tech Support. They are very knowledgeable. As soon as I told them I had this hub, the S3X 3-speed fixed gear, and I told them that I had lost gears 1 and 2, they knew exactly what the problem was. Failure of this part is the only thing that could cause that problem. We begin by removing the drive side bearing cone and the clutch spring. Pay attention to which way that comes out because it goes back in the same way. And the sprocket assembly. So this drive dog slides into the ring gear and it engages both planetary gear sets. So this is pretty cool. This is made this way. It's a super thin adjustable wrench. Then go ahead and remove the lock nuts and the bearing cone from the non-drive side. Now to get this thing any farther apart, this ring has to come off. And I know there's a tool for that, but I don't have it. Anyway, so this spanner is for my Tormach. I think it might work. There we go. So far all this is looking pretty good. And of course you'll want to clean all this old grease out completely and get it right down to bare metal before applying brand new grease. Now on to the crux of the biscuit. This is looking good. Now, one of the reasons a guy might want to video the disassembly of something like this, so you have a reference when you go to put it back together in case you forgot what went where. And then this will all come apart. And let's take a look. You're about to see a piece pop out here, and what that is 1/2 of the selector key assembly. Going back to the earlier view of the assembly, it's actually 2 pieces that are held together with a screw that has a spring on it. So I see what's happened here is this has come unscrewed. Yeah, so it's definitely damaged. You can see that corner's nicked off. But I think the real problem was that this had come unscrewed. Now, I'll be the first to admit I put thousands of miles on this bike and never once opened up this rear axle to perform any kind of maintenance. And I should disassemble this planetary gear transmission, but looking inside, it looks all right. So I'm just going to clean it and re-lubricate it. Okay, this thing's going to be a little tricky to get back together. First, that indicator spring goes in, then this has to compress it. I'm going to do that again just so you guys can get a better look. This is how this works. You got the large diameter end of the axle on the left. This is the indicator spring. You load this in from the left, put it all the way in there. Then you compress the spring, insert the selector key assembly, and release the spring. And there you go. Then your chain drive goes down through the indicator spring, and it screws into the selector key assembly. And when you pull on it, that's what moves your planetary gears in and out. Now, the grease I'm going to use for this is this food grade stuff, which is the same stuff I would use in like a KitchenAid mixer, because it is really high quality and it is made to go lots of miles. And if any of you cycling types want to tell me the error of my ways, go ahead and comment in the doobly-doo below. I'm happy to listen to whatever you have to say. Although you're not going to change my mind. I think this grease will work just fine. Okay, now where were we? Let's put this thing back together. All right. Just put it back together, the opposite of the way you took it apart. Okay, so let's put this back together. The axle uses this special washer, one on each side, and it goes in the dropout. And what that does is that locks the axle to the frame. So the axle can't rotate. This thing here is called a tug nut, and it's a chain tensioning device. It's made by Surly. It's pretty cool, mainly because it will open a beer. That's a beer opener. That's a beer opener there. Now this cable routing, there's a piece of Delrin under the bottom bracket there that cable just kind of glides through. So let's see if it works. We got third gear. It looks like we're back to having second gear. And we're down, we got first gear again. All right, that is good news. Okay, and those bearings are a little bit tight, but I think I'm gonna ride it just a mile or two before I adjust them again. Anyway, now all I gotta do is swap out that tube so I can actually air up the tires, because that little short stem on there, my pump won't even clamp onto that. Anyway, that's all for this time. I'm happy to answer any questions in the doobly-doo below, so please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click up here to see my last video. Click over here to see something on mine that YouTube thinks you'll like. And have a good one.